Get ready to crash, brace for impact. Okay, so recording. Okay. Antivirus false positives is where we're going to start today. Specifically, Norton this time around. Every release, actually, we end up seeing from our users when they're downloading that it's Avast or it's Norton or it's McAfee or it's this or it's that virus that is saying that our website is malicious or the binaries you're downloading are malicious, and sometimes even as the user is downloading them, the antivirus sends it straight to their virus vault, and so they can't even access it. And it's not just our binary. Sometimes it's the binaries that are shipped with our binary, which is slvoice.exe, slplugin.exe. So I came in here with the intent to rant, because I guess this release is being flagged by Norton Antivirus something fierce this time around. And but a very unexpected thing happened last night. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about why I think, and believe me, it's not just Firestorm that gets hit with these false positives. Linden Lab does, Singularity, all the viewers do. And I'll tell you what my theory is on that. If you look at the heuristics of how a Trojan works, generally a Trojan hitchhikes on the back of another application and connects to the internet separately from that other application. And so if you look at the way the Second Life viewer works, you've got Firestorm.exe is the binary, but it also ships with two other executables within it that connect to the internet as well, separate from the viewer, which is slvoice and slplugin. And I think it's just a theory. I think the reason why our viewers often get false flagged is because the heuristics of that kind of look similar to how a Trojan works. And I think that's why the false flags happen. And I call them false flags because, trust me, Firestorm does not have a virus. Our website is not in any way malicious. Now, I was going to do a big rant towards antiviruses. We talked a little bit yesterday after the third-party viewer meeting with Linden Lab, and Latif was there, developer for Singularity, creator of Radagast viewer, and I just mentioned that I wanted to, punch Norton Antivirus in the face, and he mentioned that Singularity has the same problems. And he made a suggestion. He said that something he tried was to flame and shame, it was Avast for them, flame and shame Avast through Twitter. And I guess he basically told people, if you guys could hold your questions just till we get closer to the end, and then we'll make sure we answer everything. His suggestion was to flame and shame the antivirus company through Twitter. So last night, we sent a tweet. It wasn't rude. It was just that I think it was along the lines of, no, Firestorm doesn't have a virus, just Norton doesn't know how to tell the difference between safe and unsafe, or something like that. And within, just a few minutes, we had a reply on Twitter from Norton support, giving us some suggestions and apologizing for the trouble. And I was pretty surprised at how quickly that came, and they suggested that we go to these forums and fill them out. So the problem with that, with getting whitelisting, is we have 8 binaries now. We've got 3 Windows, 2 Mac, and 3 Linux. And the way those forms work is you have to attach the binary in question to the form, which means you've got to fill the form out. In this case, I'd have to fill the form out 8 times for each binary. And I would have to do this every time we do a release. for Norton alone, and then I've got to do that through Avast, and God knows what other antivirus programs are out there. I kind of have to go around to all of them and do this form. And on top of that, it takes time before they actually approve it, because they get lots of these, and they don't have like a billion people to go through and verify that these things aren't whitelisted. And it takes, something like 2 to 3 months. And on top of that, by that time, you've got another release out, and you got to go through the whole process again, because they're only whitelisting that binary. So once you have an update, you've got a new binary, and you just got to start the process all over again. And so, the solution to it is just not really feasible. It's, you'd have to have somebody who's just dedicated to doing that all the time, filling out these forms and applying for whitelisting. And on top of that, so even if they do whitelist it right away, then their customers, people who use these antiviruses, have to download the new virus definition. So then that whitelisting has to wait until Norton or whoever has an update available for their users, and those users have to go in and download the update, apply it, probably reboot their machine. So it's a pretty ugly process and really frustrating. So, I was prepared today to have a lot of nasty things to say about Norton, particularly this time, but it's been Avast in the past and other programs. Anyway, so we sort of politely flamed and shamed Norton on Twitter, and we got a response pretty quick. And the suggestion was to fill out these forms. And I had to step out for a few minutes, and when I came back, Ed had posted in one of the support chats that an avatar by the name of Norton Support has entered the region. This region. I kid you not. The Norton representative created a Second Life account, logged into Second Life for the first time on Firestorm, never been in Second Life before, found this region, teleported here, hoping he could find one of us. I kid you not. Oh my gosh. So Ed was like, you need to get here now. And okay, I'm on my way. And, I thought maybe this is just a hoax. Other people watch Twitter. They probably saw it. Anyway, no, sure enough, it was Norton in Second Life. Twitter works. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Norton is now on the top of my respectometer in regards to antivirus programs. Even though I don't use Norton, that kind of customer service is remarkable, especially considering we don't use Norton. We are not a customer of Norton. They didn't need to do that, but the guy came in, he pointed me to the forms, I filled them out. I only had to, because he was helping me, I only had to submit one binary, which was the one that's being hit the most, which is our Windows 64-bit. He analyzed himself on the spot. He analyzed all of our binaries to try to give us some tips on why they're being flagged falsely, at least with Norton. Obviously, he can't help with the other programs. But, and so then I filled out the forms. He gave me his email address. I emailed him the tracking numbers for those submissions. And as of this morning, every future binary ever that we put out is now whitelisted. We will never, ever have another problem with Norton going forward.
So you can say what you like about Norton Antivirus, folks, but damn, their support's good.
That's incredible. I was surprised that they replied on Twitter. I had no idea that they would actually come into Second Life. I mean, this guy was a newbie. He actually took it upon himself to find our website, get the viewer, log in, all that stuff. Incredible. Really impressed. So, that fixes the issue with Norton going forward. Doesn't resolve the issue with Avast. What were the other ones at?
Avast, Bitdefender, AVG have been the big, and Norton.
They're the common ones.
Yeah.
So now we got a big three. I'm going to. Oh, Casper Spy. Thank you. That was another one that was annoying. And Avast was a big one, wasn't it? I thought Avast was like a big issue.
Previous releases, but not this one.
So, at the very least, you have at least my explanation of why all viewers in Second Life frequently get false flagged by antivirus programs. I think it's because what the heuristics of these antiviruses look for sort of matches the way our viewers work, with having other binaries that piggyback and connect to the internet behind the scenes, like voice and SL plugin. So I think that's why they're being flagged. I can't speak, unequivocally that no viewer in Second Life is going to contain a virus. But I'll tell you what, Firestorm won't contain a virus. Singularity, if we were to transmit a virus to our users, first of all, everybody would, if we released a version and it was somehow infected, it wouldn't be, every one person out of 300 people who have, a antivirus flag. Everybody would be flagged, and it would be all over the internet, that Firestorm is transmitting a virus and blah 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 blah. If your antivirus is flagging it, and you look in the groups and you don't see other people like in mass saying it's being flagged, it doesn't have a virus. And we have a page. We have a wiki page, right, on how to. There you go. Thank you, Chikat. So there's a link there in local on whitelisting. So basically, if your antivirus is flagging us or other viewers, you're going to have to go into your antivirus program settings and find where it is that you can add exceptions, and add the viewer as an exception. And you may have to do that with each release as well, because the binary is named differently from one version to another. And I might also suggest that you complain to your antivirus company. I might even suggest you flame and shame them on Twitter, because, wow, that really works. Very impressed.
You didn't think so when you had to walk away from your movie to log in.
No, yeah, I was kind of. I wasn't planning on logging into Second Life last night, but it was certainly worth the time. And I should add, if you're on Norton, you are going to have to do an update to get the most recent definitions whenever they release them, in order for Firestorm not to be flagged. The email says that they've added it to their definitions, but their definitions haven't actually been released. So I don't know what that time frame is like.
Norton Antivirus will automatically download updates every several hours. So
when they make them available. I don't know if they make them available that quickly. They probably package, put a whole bunch together first, make it available. So I don't know how long that will take. And the email had no suggestion of, what kind of time frame that would be. But anyway, kudos, Norton Antivirus. Good job. Good job, Tim. Was the name of the rep. Okay, next on my list, we have a Monty in the audience, and I know this is one of his questions. Mac. How many Mac people do we have in the audience right now? 4, 5.5, 5.5.
Monty's actually Linux, I believe, Jess.
Oh, is Monty Linux? Monty had a Mac question, though, I thought. Okay, so. Oh, thank you, Monty. That's a good link. So, Mac. I believe Monty had asked, what's the future of Mac going forward, since, our Cinder is no longer with us. We do have Tanya. She's a Mac developer. Tanya's availability is limited, though, right now. But even with Cinder, even if we still had Cinder, the issues that are plaguing Mac are more or less beyond our realm. Most of them are related to Cocoa, the Cocoa merge, which was after version 4.4.2. And that's relevant. I'll get back to that in a minute. So we brought this up. We've brought it up many times now. Almost every third-party VM meeting we have with Linux Lab, we bring it up. So we're going to be blocking version 4.4.0 in the next couple weeks because of our stated rule that we're going to only have 3 working versions supported on the grid at any given time. And so 4.4.0 will get blocked. That will leave 4.4.2 as the next victim when we do our next release. And so Mac people who are plagued with these problems related to Cocoa, most of them are still using version 4.4.2 because that was pre-Cocoa merge. It also doesn't support or see fitted mesh and some other things in Second Life. Materials, I don't think it can see materials either. So some of the problems with Mac is stability is a biggie, crashing a lot. There's a camera glitch with your alt camming, which is, I can only imagine how frustrating that must be. And various other problems. So Linux Lab, we're kind of depending on Linux Lab to fix these because they're, like I say, they're kind of over our head, and we don't actually have, a Mac developer who has the time to put into trying to fix these things. And the bad news is that all the viewers who have upgraded to Cocoa, and I think that's all of them. I think Singularity has 2. I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. They all have the same problems. And so Linux Lab has Mac developers, but their Mac developers are busy with other projects. I don't think Linux Lab sees the Cocoa issues as being that bad. Oz, personally, he uses Mac. He's using Maverick, the latest operating system. And I think for most of the Mac issues, if you upgrade to Maverick, most of your problems are gone. Except for the alt camming bug. I also understand that there are Mac people who either cannot update their operating system or don't want to for one reason or another. So I did some crunching of numbers last night, and I took a look at our Google Code page, which has all of our downloads prior to this one, and I looked at the 4.4.2 download numbers, how many downloads of Windows, Mac, Linux. It works out to about 9%. 9% of you use Macs. And that's not a lot. And when it comes to prioritizing, as far as a big company like Linux Lab, they're going to prioritize on the users they have most of, which is Windows. And so Mac is not going to be a huge priority. I wish I had better news for you guys. Is that right, Eric? I didn't know that. So, I don't know what else I can say to you guys other than to file your bugs on Linux Lab's Jira. The Jira is open now, so you should be able to search and find the already reported bugs, and believe me, there are those. And add your comments, add your experiences. This is one of those things that I think, if it's going to be fixed, Linux Lab is going to need to see that there's, enough people having the problems that justifies pulling a Mac dev off of whatever and focusing them on, the Mac issues. How is Mac development going with Cinder leaving? It's not. It's not much. Like I say, we've got Tanya, but Tanya's availability is limited, busy, IRL. And so I mean, as far as development goes, there's nothing that we do. We don't develop features specifically for Mac, features specifically for Windows. It's more of a compatibility thing. We add in a feature. We don't even think about the operating system. We just add in a feature, and then we make sure that feature works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So it's not a matter of Mac development. It's a matter of Mac compatibility with the Firestorm. And as far as that's concerned, we're in sync with Linen Lab. All of our features work on Mac, aside from the bugs that you guys are suffering. I've noticed with this release, looking at statistics, I think it was about less than 5% of Mac people are downloading 4.6.1. That's even just downloading it to try it. Less than 5% is actually trying 4.6.1. Probably most of you may be going back to 4.4.2 again because of the bugs. I don't know what to say for you guys. It's a small percentage of people on Mac, which makes Mac not a priority. With a big development company. So I don't know. Fingers crossed that things will get better. I'm sure they will. So getting back to the block, I did state yesterday during the meeting with Oz that we're not going to block 4.4.2 until these major Cocoa issues are addressed. The unfortunate thing about that is it doesn't really solve much for you Mac folks, because you're still not going to see fitted mesh, which I expect will become popular over time. You're not going to see materials, and whatever else is in the pipeline in the future, you're still going to have. It's not an ideal thing, but I can tell you we won't block 4.4.2 until the major issues with Mac are dealt with.
And also just to underline, it is not 4.4.2 that is being blocked at all right now.
Yeah, we're not doing that now.
4.4.0, which doesn't actually have a lot of users anymore because 4.4.2 is the same but better.
Yeah.
So 4.4.0, 4.4.0.
And I'm not promising when we're going to do that. I'll say that if you're using 4.4.0, I'll say why. Because there's 4.6.1 is actually pretty good. 4.5.1 is pretty good.
Sorry, Jess. I'm sorry, Peter. I don't mean to sound like I'm correcting you specifically, but it also showed up on a blog after the last Q&A that the numbers were confused as well. That somebody was saying that 4.4.2 was possibly being blocked, and no. It's 4.4.0, so yeah.
So not many people on 4.4.0. If you are on 4.4.0, get off, update to something newer. If you're Mac, you may want to stay on 4.4.2. We aren't going to block 4.4.2. At least not until... see, I don't want to make any solid statements because they always come back to bite me. We don't plan to block 4.4.2 until the major Cocoa issues are fixed. And any questions you guys have on Mac on that topic, throw them out now before we move on. Mac 64-bit. That was in progress. Cindy was working on that. She came across a few roadblocks. The challenges with making a 64-bit operating system is you have to recompile all the libraries in 64-bit. Boost is a library that any developer that works with Boost, especially in Second Life, hates. Boost hates with a passion, capital letters, hates. It can be a real pain in the butt, and Cinder ran into some roadblocks with Boost, and it works great. Maybe on Windows, and so she wasn't able to get past those roadblocks. We were still hoping in the future we could get past them. So Tanya is our only current Mac developer, and I'm sounding like a broken record, but Tanya doesn't have the availability that she'd like to have to continue on that Mac 64-bit path that we were hoping we would get to eventually. I'll tell you that we will never say that we're not going to do Mac 64-bit anymore. It's still on our planning board. It's still something we absolutely want to do. But it's not going to happen until we can get more availability for Mac developers or something like that. Linden Lab is very interested in 64-bit, by the way. They've been watching statistics, and Singularity has 64-bit. We have it now. They've been watching both viewers very closely. They are very interested in it. Oz is pushing to get 64-bit support through Linden Lab. Vivox is working apparently on a 64-bit voice, which Oz said yesterday Linden Lab would share with us. Even if Linden Lab doesn't have 64-bit yet, they'll share with us, so we'll be able to have a 64-bit voice for the Windows version anyways, maybe Linux. Probably not Linux. Linux, Vivox is not putting much effort into Linux, but... So, Havoc libs, that's something, again, we would need from Linden Lab. And they're not going to do 64-bit Havoc libs until they're doing 64-bit support. So, it'll come. But yeah, these things we depend on. We can't do anything with Havoc. We've got the stub, but we can't, recompile it or do anything like that with it. So, that's relying on Linden Lab. So, Linden Lab is interested in a 64-bit. Chances, there's probably a fair likelihood that Mac 64 won't actually become available until Linden Lab does it, unless things change with the open source third-party viewers. So maybe somebody on Singularity will be able to do it, and maybe they can share those libraries with us. Or some other viewer. Maybe they'll have a Mac dev who can do that. Maybe Catherine Barry will be able to do it. She's in university and busy, I understand, with exams. But if there's a person who can do that, Catherine Barry would be it. And Kat works on Exodus, for those of you that don't know her, she's genius. So don't give up on it. It's still going to come. But it's not going to come from us anytime in the immediate future. Jenna, some people report that. Some people report higher frame rates. I think it depends on various things. And Serial actually spotted something the other day in 64-bit through, I think it was Fast Timers, that might explain why some people have a lower frame rate on the Windows 64-bit. I don't know if she was able to look any further into that, but... Any other questions on Mac? Ants, did you find an improvement with that? Do you think that you might be onto something there? I must have missed that. I think Skype keeps dropping things, and I'm starting to get Kata's problems with Skype. Eddie, on that question, Linden Lab has an experimental, well, I shouldn't call it experimental, it's just in release candidates being tested. And it's a new version of Vivox. We'll probably make it available in the next week or two. We'll make a wiki page for folks who want to try the new one, but Linden Lab hasn't released it yet, so we're not going to release it because, like I say, it's just still being tested. Maybe the new version will address what you're talking about. I'm not actually familiar with what you're saying, but... Okay, I think we're past Mac. Are we past Mac? If there's one suggestion I can make for you Mac folks, if you can update your operating system, update your operating system. Don't be on 10.6 or 10.7. The older the operating system, the more issues you're going to have. And that is a bit of a segue to the next topic, which is Windows XP.
Grr.
So how many people in here on Windows XP?
Can I bring my alt over?
No. Oh, it definitely exists, Peter. So I don't know what the actual numbers are of users on Windows XP. I know there's enough of them on XP 64-bit to complain that our Windows 64-bit doesn't work for them. And I'll get back to that in just a moment. Windows 3.11. That was a great operating system. That was a really good operating system. Okay, so however many people there are on Windows XP, there's not many of you, I can assure you. It's going to be a pretty small number. But even a small number, a small percentage in relationship to the amount of users we have still translates to quite a few people. And XP people are kind of loud, and you make yourselves heard usually when things don't go your way. Yeah, so what Jalen just said, for those of you that don't know, Windows XP officially the support ends in April. It's more or less been dead for quite some time. And I do get that some people, like Ed, have incredible stability on Windows XP. I have no stats myself that I can see with my own eyes, but Linen Lab assures us that people on Windows XP have by far the highest crash rate of any other operating system.
And I have something to say about that. As I told
I thought you would.
Yesterday, I've had my alt on for in excess of 200 hours, more than once. So that's a week at a time. So say what you want about the stability. It's not true for everybody.
But as Oz said, statistically, you are insignificant.
Yeah, I have the significance of a fart in a hurricane. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Unless it's a really good fart. So yeah, Microsoft is no longer supporting Windows XP. Are we going to block Windows XP? Some of you might have noticed in the notice I sent out, possibility of blocking XP. I thought that might get your attention. If Linen Lab blocks XP, we're going to block XP. But Linen Lab has stated they've got no real interest in blocking Windows XP. They're more or less just going to let you guys suffer. The installer will still probably work for you. It doesn't mean that the viewer will run well. It doesn't mean that you're not going to crash. By the way, if you're running Firestorm on Windows XP and you're crashing, you are hurting our crash rate. I don't appreciate that. Just saying. So no, we're not going to block Windows XP unless Linen Lab does. We're going to follow their suit with regard to what operating system they support and what they don't, and that way we can blame them instead of be blamed. Because we roll that way.
Jess, can you give Alex a quick synopsis of the Norton thing? He's just asking if we discussed Norton blocking the release.
Oh, a quick summary. It's going to be fixed. Update your virus definitions, and watch the recording when this is up on YouTube. It's at the beginning. We talked about the antivirus stuff.
You'll hear Jeff say all sorts of nice things about Norton, believe it or not.
Yeah, nice things. They redeem themselves. Okay, getting back to XP. No, Firestorm 64-bit does not run on XP 64-bit. I am to blame, not Tank. Tank was very strongly pushing that Windows XP 64-bit should be able to run Firestorm 64-bit. I wasn't, and I'll tell you why. You are on a very old operating system. Please don't expect new shiny to be issued to you on an old operating system. So if you want if you want Firestorm 64-bit to run, please just, how old is Windows XP? I mean, that's as old as my daughter.
It's not as old as me.
Nearly.
I still work.
I mean, come on. Really? 13 years? Upgrade your computer, guys. Really. Update your... I know formatting and all that stuff is a real pain in the butt, but you can't tell me, Windows XP is working that good for you. It was never a very good operating system to begin with. It was okay. Okay, Ed is going to argue, because Ed swears by XP. Anyway, the Firestorm 32-bit will work on XP 64-bit. Always has, and always will, unless Linden Lab decide to prevent that through the installer, which is a possibility. It could happen. If you want to know for sure, without a shadow of doubt, that you'll always be able to use Firestorm, upgrade your operating system, and you'll never have to worry about it.
Until you have to upgrade your operating system again.
Tank, did you want to verbalize your opinions on this matter?
I was just going to state that Lin Labs has stated that of all the operating systems that they support, that XP is by far the least stable of all of them, even Mac and Linux. So, updating really would help most people, except for Ed.
I'll tell you what else, too.
Stability.
Don't you dare come into our support groups or our blog post comments saying Firestorm is really crashy and unstable for me and it sucks and it's useless and nobody should use it if you're running Windows XP. If you're running Windows XP and you're coming in and you're blabbing that Firestorm is unstable and all that crap, you're hurting us. And it's your fault that you're on Windows XP. Please don't do that.
XP supports multiprocessor. But
Does it really?
Another thing that they've stated
Yeah, it does.
Another thing that they've stated is that just using a 64-bit operating system, even with the 32-bit viewer, does offer significantly less crash rates, like about half, compared to the same version of Windows and using 32-bit Windows.
Yeah, that's interesting. Oz mentioned that we were talking about that yesterday as well, is that 64-bit, just in our preliminary crash rate results from before we released 461, when it was in a preview group, enough people in the preview group were on it that it showed up in last week's stats. And the 64-bit has a significantly lower crash rate, really low. Although, with the small number of people that was being counted, we expect that to go up. But it was significant. And Oz is suggesting that it may not necessarily be because, the Firestorm 64-bit version itself is stable. It's that 64-bit operating systems are stable. And now that we have a 64-bit version of Firestorm, these people are downloading it, so we're starting to see stats coming in that are separate from the typical Windows stats. Always before it was just Windows. How stable is, Windows? But now we've got two versions, so we're seeing two sorts of numbers. We're seeing Windows, and we're seeing the 64-bit. And it seems lower. So it isn't actually that the 64-bit Firestorm is more stable. It's more a matter that 64-bit operating systems are more tolerant to things that normally would crash the viewer. So, for example, all the viewers have memory issues, memory leaks and whatnot, and we know that the 32-bit has a out-of-memory crash, that at some point you're doing something and suddenly, for some unknown reason, the viewer requests more memory than the operating system has to offer it, and it goes boom, it's gone. With a 64-bit operating system and 64-bit Firestorm, that bug still exists, but you don't actually run out of memory. So it's not that we fixed the bug in 64-bit, it's just that it's more tolerant and won't necessarily reach that crash point. So although it seems more stable, and for all intents purposes it is more stable, it's not that it's any different. It's just that 64-bit is more tolerant, and 64-bit operating systems are more tolerant to the memory crashes that the viewers have. Yeah, you can use 32-bit viewers PEGI on a 64-bit operating system, but I would suggest if you have a 64-bit operating system, use the 64-bit, unless you need Havoc for pathfinding or mesh with physics. Well, actually, Starlight, apparently, even if you've only got 4 gig of RAM, it still seems to be less crashy. So it's still beneficial for some perhaps unknown reason that even on less than 4 gig of RAM, 64-bit Firestorm is still more stable for you. No, not really. 55.
The minimum requirements for the 64-bit are the same as the 32-bit.
Crashy is a technical term, yes. I'm not sure what that means, Chansey. Ed? Letta?
Out of memory, textures discarded.
Oh, that.
Here, see, I did my bit. Now you can talk about it.
Oh, I don't want to talk about that. Letta, you want to talk about that?
Textures discarded?
Yeah.
I don't
Basically,
know how much. Well, I can bring up the wiki page for it.
Oh, that might help. Basically, it's the viewer telling you you're about to crash. Usually crashes happen without you expecting them. Oh, thank you, Checkhat, of course. Checkhat is becoming another Whirly. It's basically, usually the viewer doesn't know when it's going to crash. When you get that message, it means, I know I'm going to crash. I'm just letting you know that I'm about to crash. And then I crash. It's a crash. Just like we can't prevent other crashes, we can't really, fixing this crash is difficult. And by the way, Little Lamb suffers it too.
But I believe the message in the corner is specific to us, which may, sometimes it makes people think that the message is, I don't know, causing the crash, or that something because of the message makes the crash more, just more noticeable. But the purpose of the message is to kind of warn you. So if you want to relog before you actually crash, at least you'll be able to save your settings, anything you changed while you were in, and that kind of thing. Sometimes the message will come up and you don't crash. That's kind of lucky when it happens. Can't complain about that. But the link that Chakop put into chat has troubleshooting steps for it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think enabling texture compression sometimes helps folks that have that problem chronically also. At least it doesn't hurt to try, although for some people that can degrade texture quality. So it's a pro and a con for that one.
So it boils down to that if we didn't add that message in there, then people would just think that they're crashing less just like they ever crash. We added the message, and now, people think the message is causing the crash. Could you imagine if we added a message prior to every crash?
Actually, that would be informative, but...
That would, but we'd end up with this kind of reaction again, times, a lot.
But the message also gives clues as to what can be done in order to try to curtail the issue. It allows us to have that wiki page with the troubleshooting steps so that people know what they may be able to try. They're not guaranteed. Troubleshooting of this type is not generally guaranteed, but you can at least try it.
We're falling out of the Windows XP thing, so just before we finish that, here's a link to the third-party viewer meeting yesterday. And if you're interested in Linden Labs' point of view on the Windows XP thing, it's there for those of you who want to look. Jenna, absolutely. The viewer is not very good at managing memory, and that's because viewer has bugs in regards to memory management. And often the longer you're logged in, the more likelihood, you're going to crash. But that same thing is true when you talk about driving a car. The more time you spend driving a car, the more likely you're going to be in an accident. It's just that the viewer is not good at managing memory. It's very difficult to fix memory bugs. It's very difficult to trace them because they're often they're not reproducible. You can't reliably reproduce it. You can't just do one thing and that's going to reproduce the crash, and you can watch to see what happens, and then you can try to fix it. Memory issues are quite a bit more complicated than that. And they stem from the fact that the Second Life viewer is a very complicated, layered mess of code. Very good one. Okay, so any more questions about Mac XP 64-bit? Peter, yes, unless you're on a 32-bit operating system, in which case having 20 gig of RAM is not going to help you because it only uses 3 point something.
Molly, how long is too long staying logged in? That really depends on your system and your setup.
And what you're doing.
Yep.
Graphics card makes a huge difference in Second Life. Actually, let me address something else. We had a blog comment, I think yesterday or whenever. along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly what it was, but we hear this frequently. My computer is perfectly fine. It's a really good computer. I can run every game on high settings. I can watch videos on YouTube. Firestorm doesn't work very well, so you need to fix it. We get that a lot. Let me tell you something. Second Life cannot be compared to any kind of video game at all, ever. You cannot compare it to any kind of video game. I don't care how well your computer plays Crisis or Pac-Man or whatever other games are out there. I don't care how well it plays them. Second Life is impossibly different than a video game. A video game, all the graphics. Yeah, and I don't know very many games. I'm not a gamer. Video games, when you launch it, it is loading all the graphics into memory because it knows what you're going to see when you go around that corner in the game. It already knows what's going to be there, so it loads it into memory ahead of time. In Second Life, it knows nothing. The viewer has no idea what it's going to see when it logs in. So when it logs in, it downloads everything over the internet. Every step you take towards a different draw distance or something else renders into your draw distance, it downloads that and then has to display it graphically in the computer. And it's dynamic. It's constantly changing. You cannot compare Second Life to anything else that I can think of anywhere. I don't care how well your computer plays some video game, it doesn't mean it's going to play Second Life well.
I have something to add to this, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
Once it's loaded into memory, then, it's in your memory, but when you go back around the corner, it still has to look, Jenny, because it might be gone by then.
It still has to re-render it.
Okay. And on top of that, one thing that a lot of people don't seem to realize is not only can your hardware make a big difference, as well as the settings on your computer and the settings in the viewer itself, but other software on your computer can interfere and cause all sorts of strange bugs, even crashes. So simply having one little piece of software that you use once a week on your machine can cause problems. SkyDrive Wolf was a good example.
Oh, yeah.
There's several examples. Peter knows of one. It was actually just a simple little bug, but when something was deleted, when you were building something and you deleted, I can't remember if it was through the floater or using the keystroke command, it would turn off the Azure keyboard. And it would require a reboot of the computer to get the Azure keyboard back. Go figure. So just because you've got the latest and greatest computer, folks, doesn't mean that the viewer is the problem.
Another thing I often see, Firestorm was working fine yesterday, and it's just getting worse and worse every day. What are you people doing wrong? I got news for you. We don't have the ability to upgrade or change the viewer that's installed on your computer, like, remotely. We don't do that. If Firestorm has changed from yesterday to today, and you haven't installed a new version of Firestorm, something has changed on your computer that has changed the performance of the viewer. Don't come to us. We can't help you. It's something you did on your computer, and it's not necessarily something you did intentionally. It doesn't necessarily mean you downloaded something. Maybe your computer did a defrag last night, and it's changed things, or maybe there's a gazillion different things that could be happening in your computer that can change the way anything performs. We can't make changes to the viewer while it's installed on your computer. We can't do that. So, if you're finding... Go ahead.
The other two factors are network and server. So if
Right.
something has changed since yesterday, it could be either of those two things also. And for some reason, network tends to be a sensitive one. Like, people don't want to hear there's something wrong with their network because it's so
yeah.
fast. And oh my gosh, you're offending me by the mere suggestion that I should reboot my modem and router. But networks are dynamic. They are affected by a lot more than you might expect, especially if you're on a wireless connection. And it absolutely can change from one day to the next, which is something the viewer can't do. And as for server, if it's a server issue, it may be affecting other people. It could be specific to the location in SL you're in, so you can always try different regions. That's always one of the first things that we suggest doing for certain kinds of problems. In fact, there are about a dozen things that it can be, but the only one thing that it can't be, if you're experiencing, a big change from one day to the next, is the viewer. That's the one thing that it actually isn't out of everything that it might be.
Peter, it could also be that your hard drive is slowing down. It could be that the graphics card, you've got something else running somewhere that's using up resources on your computer that takes away the resources that your computer has for, Second Life. And there's any number of a billion things that could be causing it. But what isn't causing it, I can assure you, is that we didn't change Firestorm remotely on your computer.
Don't believe her. She sneaks in on my computer every day and changes my settings on me.
Eric, push updates? What do you mean?
The
Forced
automatic
updates.
update.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
nightlies.
So that's a good segue. You read my mind, because the next topic. Any more questions on Windows XP, Mac, memory? Us magically changing the performance of your viewer? Right. Okay, so what Chatcat said, can you imagine if we forced you to upgrade to a viewer version that doesn't work for you? I don't think that would go over well. So the next subject on our list, which is the last real major issue, and then we can talk about everything, whatever, is our release cycle times. And this is a sensitive topic within our team as well. We have there are two sides to this, and I'm going to try to be fair to all sides. I have obviously the side that I lean on. Then we talk salary. Ants is on the opposite side of my side. I'll put that out there right now. Okay, so release cycle times. We have what seems like a lot of complaints, but if you look at the big picture, it's not that many people. But we do get people that complain that our release cycle times are too long. And for those of you who don't know, that we're averaging about 4 months between releases. That's what a release cycle is the time in between each update. We're averaging every 4 months. And a lot of people are complaining. If you read our blog comments, people are complaining that, what's the matter with us? Why would we want to do, release cycles so far apart, blah, blah, blah. I can tell you unequivocally, no matter what side we're on the team, there's a side that would like to do a release every week, and there's a side that would like to do releases less frequently than every week. But I can tell you, all of the sides agree that every 4 months is too long. Our release cycles of every 4 months is not by choice. We're not aiming to do a release every 4 months. We actually would be nice to do them. My side of the fence is every 2 months. If we can do a release every 2 months, I think that is the happy medium between 4 months and no months. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you in Serial, and there will be people who will side with Serial, wants to do a release, every week or two. So let me tell you my reasoning so first of all, let me make it clear, none of us are happy that our releases are taking 4 months. None of us. Not even our support team. Nobody is happy that the releases are taking 4 months in between each time. It is too long. We all agree. And so please don't, if you're one of those people who have been complaining, please don't come to us and complain that, why are we choosing to do a release every 4 months? We're not. It's just kind of working out that way. And interesting that it just happens to work out 4 months almost every time. I don't know how that happens. Anyway, so there's only so much we can do. First of all, yeah, we've got some 80 people on the project, on the team. Probably about 10 or 12 of them are developers. Of those developers, how many do you think are actually developing folks? If we had all 12 of our developers developing, we could be doing releases really quickly. But no, we've got Serial, who does a ridiculous amount of work. Just look at our repository. It's absurd. We've got Tank, who handles merges and compatibility issues and things like that. We've got Nikki, who handles server stuff, crash fixes, major issues that are too complicated for most of us. We've got Zri, does some work. We've got Tanya does some work. Tanya's not been available. Zri's not been available. As far as active devs, really active devs, maybe
Don't forget
4.
Tech.
And with Tech, of course. The Cinder was doing tons. We don't have Cinder now. How much do you think we can get done with so few developers in a period of time? So I'll tell you what happens. When we put out a release, generally the devs take a little bit of a break. They've worked hard. The ones who have worked hard, and they deserve a break. And we'll go maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3. Yeah, I'll get back to that, Hans. We are looking for developers, by the way. So that's 2-3 weeks that nothing is happening. We're not getting anything done. During those 2-3 weeks, though, our support team is freaking hammered. Busy, crazy busy, going out of their minds, rage quitting because they're burnt out, they can't handle it anymore. Keep in mind that support have to deal with all the people who are really pissed off and feeling entitled and all these different things. I was called, Panteri, can you bleep that out? I shouldn't have said that.
I have to eject you from the region, Jeff?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, you're the owner. I can't do that.
I meant to say I was called some pretty nasty names in an offline because we didn't offer the ability to provide the ability to install to a different directory with 64-bit, which, by the way, yes, we did. You just got to look in the little button that says options, because installing it to a different directory would be an option. Anyway, so support deals with people like this all the time, and it's really bad when we do a release. Really, really bad. This is when support gets hammered, and we lose people on support because they just can't take it anymore. Can you imagine if we did a release every 2 weeks or a month?
Jess? Every 2 weeks, you wouldn't have a support team.
Exactly, and that's my point. So
I mean,
I have to balance out the needs. We've got 3 main departments on this team. We've got the developers, we've got QA, and we've got support. And all 3 of these departments have a different idea of what would work best for them. And my job is to choose one that works best for everybody, but that nobody is actually fully happy with. So, if we did, let's say we did monthly releases. Okay, once a month. Yeah. Anyway, let's say we did a release every month. That gives us, because QA is going to take how much time, Katie, Dakota, are you in here? Fatashi, how much time do you think is reasonable to test a build before it goes out to a release? More than you get already as it is. QA could do a monthly release, but keep in mind that doesn't give you a month to test. You're going to get about a quarter to a third of the time in that release to do testing. So if we did a monthly release, developers are going to get 3 weeks to do work. QA is going to get 1 week to test. Is that going to be enough? No. And let me tell you what else happens. That's assuming that QA finds nothing wrong with the work that the 3 weeks of work that the devs did. But I can assure you they will. And so what happens is that in that 1 week of testing, they find these issues, and then we've got to get developers to go in and fix these bugs. Let's say that takes a week. Then another build has to be sent to QA, and then QA has to test those fixes. And quite often, they find problems with those fixes. So then the next week, the devs have to do some more work. And then QA has to do... Do you guys starting to see the problematics between development and quality assurance? It gets complicated. It gets very difficult to get a release out without bugs. And I'll get back to the fact that I'm really picky and want to do perfect releases. I'll get back to that in a minute, because that argument's going to come up. And there is certainly a valid point against me in that regard. But so developing and then QAing takes time. And I've got an IM coming in from Dakota, which if he's IMing me, that's probably not going to be pretty. Okay, so there's that. So there's the fact that there's development time needed, and then there's QA time. And as far as development time goes, with the few devs that we have that are active, we're not going to get much done, okay? How much do you guys like the idea of having an update, let's say once a month, for very little changes? How many of you would update if you didn't really have anything cool to update to?
No.
We got one that would. Depends on the changes, of course. We're talking about maybe a feature and some fixes. Kind of like an agile process, Linda, yeah. Little changes. Because I'll tell you what, shorter release cycles means you get less bang for your buck for the download and install and the pain in the butt that it is to, install a new version.
Jess, I want to point out Momo's question. Has
I
there
missed
been any
that.
talk about untested nightly builds, aka use at your own risk?
Okay, let me get back to that. I will remember that moment and I'll get back to that.
Okay.
Because that is part of this topic. This is a complicated topic because there's a lot of different sides and a lot of different very valid opinions that go against each other. And I'm certainly not going to say I'm right with my opinion. So let's say that we can do monthly releases. Let me ask support, knowing. Let me give you Ansariel's argument, which is a valid argument. I should bring this up to be fair. The argument on that side of the fence on more frequent releases is that with less work done, there's less to test, and there's less impact on the users, and therefore less support. Okay, and that's a valid argument, and I don't know if that's true or not. To be honest, we've not tried it. I personally disagree to an extent, but I can't say it's from experience.
I do have something to say about that from the support perspective.
Well, and let me ask support. Let me ask support. If we did monthly releases, how would support feel about that?
They'd be burnt out within 2 releases. Definitely. Sorry, when it comes to release time, we enter what I call the 2 weeks of hell. We have 2 weeks of total insanity in the support groups. And it really is nuts, folks. And you see what's going on in front of the scenes, but let me ask you this, folks. How would you like to answer the same question 16 times in an hour and then deal with somebody that's really upset because there's a bug that's affecting them terribly? Not very. We use the auto replace for that. Okay. Now, so support goes through 2 weeks of hell after a release. Okay. People complain when we send them to the wiki, which has got all the answers. Okay. We get complaints every week. Why do your support staffs just send me a link to the wiki? I'm sorry, folks, but with chat lag in the groups, we throw the links out. You can read it there. If we were to post it in the group, it would be a wall of text, and it might not go through. Anyhow.
So let me ask you this, Ed. Letta.
Yep.
Ed and Letta are our 2 main support folks who manage the rest of the support team, which is massive. How do you think, what do you feel about release every 4 months? Currently, what we're ending up averaging?
Letta, go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Ed.
You want me to go ahead? Okay.
Let me just say, I think you guys think every 4 months is too long as well. Am I right?
Yes and no. Okay. Every 4 months, it's a lot of work leading up. For those that do the documentation, there's a lot of work that has to be done, and we can't do it until we've got a final build, because we don't want to keep going back and changing everything over and over again.
But again, the argument and Cyril's argument and the argument on that side of the fence is that if we do more frequent, then there's less documentation changes that you have to do.
Yep, that would cut down on the documentation. The other side of me would like more frequent releases, simply because it would be less work that way and less changes and fewer questions from the users. The problem being, and are you ready for this one, folks? Every release we get, oh, what's this piece of crap you put out? The last version worked so much better. The next person comes in and says, oh my God, this is absolutely wonderful. How many of you remember the blocked release that was out for a day?
441.
441? Okay, you remember that? There were 2 changes. One bug fix and the debug setting switched off instead of on.
And I'll tell you what, those 2 things have no impact on anything. Go ahead.
People said 441, oh, it's great. They get 442 and, oh, what'd you do? It's a piece of crap. It was the same viewer. That's right, Peter. It was. Okay, it was the same viewer. But going from one release to another release, oh, this one was great. Oh, this one's a piece of crap. Oh, this one was a piece of crap. This one's great. We can't win, folks. A lot of times, Dan, I think so.
That's actually, the clean install topic is one of the reasons that we could probably be more frequent than every 4 months, but it's a reason that a super fast release cycle would create chaos, because folks would come in, they'd have a problem that could have been caused by an unclean install and might be fixed by a clean reinstall. But if they don't know what that entails, and honestly, many people who think they're doing clean installs actually aren't. But so they have this issue. They didn't actually do a clean install when they thought that they had. They decide to roll back to the previous version. They find that after they roll back, they still have the problem, and they're very upset. If we had a faster release cycle, people would probably be bouncing back and forth between different versions a whole lot more, trying to figure out which one works best for them because they're experiencing a problem and not realizing that their issue was largely caused by the way that they're doing the installs. So we've got settings back up now, which ought to make clean installs a lot easier and faster, but we still see the issues come up. So that would be one of my main concerns. Willow brought up another one in text earlier, which is simply trying to keep track of the differences between the versions. Firestorm on its already is a very complex and versatile viewer. You can make it look so many different ways. You've got different login modes, you've got different skins that put things in different places, and some don't have the same things in them. And, so we do our hardest, we try our hardest to keep track of all of those differences. And then when we've got differences between versions, trying to figure out, trying to remember which bugs exist in which versions so that we can tell the people, oh, well, you should be on this one, it's a bug in the one that you're on, and so forth. It's just a lot to keep track of. And we're not going to be able to provide the best support we can possibly give if we have more that we are actually responsible for remembering in that area.
So, on the side of the fence that feels that we can do much more frequent releases because there's less work going into it, there's less, changes that need to be tested, less impact to the end user. With Chrome, Firefox, QuickTime updates, Flash updates, that is true. Because do you even notice when Chrome makes an update? Or, it's bam, it's done. You restart it and, think about it. Nothing's changed. You see no difference. It's instant. When it comes to applications like that, that's a different story. Second Life viewer updates are far more complicated than they should be. By far, they should not be as complicated and varied as they are. Changing that, though, is quite non-trivial, and really, I don't know how, updating your Second Life viewer can be made easier and more smooth, like updating Chrome or Firefox or whatever it is. But it isn't. It's complicated, it's convoluted, it's a royal pain in the butt for the user to do. There's a whole lot of, because it's so difficult and such a awkward process, people get the placebo effects of the previous version was better than the first version, or vice versa. The whole example that Ed explained about that 441, whatever it was, is a perfect example of placebo effect. Absolutely was placebo effect. You only thought it was different. It wasn't different. So every month is just not really reasonable, and it's not fair to support. Every 4 months is not reasonable to developers, because developers want to get their stuff out sooner. So my job is to try to find, in everything we do, try to find a comfortable middle ground. I would like to do a release every 2 months. Maybe 3 months. So then it brings us every 2 months. I'm going to say I would like to do a release every 2 months. That's what I would like to for us to be able to put out. I think that's fair for support, fair for devs, fair for QA, and fair to the users, because updating is a pain in the butt for you guys too. So I think every 2 months. Believe it or not, we've been aiming for that for a year now. We still manage to hit an update every 4 months. Why is that? Well, I don't have paychecks to give QA. I don't have paychecks to give beta testers. I don't have paychecks to give to our developers. And I don't have paychecks to give to our support people. We are all volunteers. And like I say, after release, the developers tend to want to take a break, and generally speaking, they deserve to take a break. They've worked hard, especially with the few that we have that are active. But that break that they're taking means nothing's getting done. Now, if this was a paid business and everybody's being paid, you don't take a break. You get a vacation for a week every year. But you're making 60, 80 grand a year. You're expected to work from 8 in the morning till 5 at night and get your job done, have results frequently, and lots of them. And if you run in a model like that, then we could do like Linden Lab does and have a new release out every week. And you could force your users to update to that release.
Sync our work with Linden Labs releases? You mean sync the
Yeah,
code
no.
as well, Momo? Ain't gonna happen.
So I'll get back to Momo.
Difference.
I'll get back to Momo's question about public nightlies. So, and this, we talked about this a little bit yesterday at the meeting as well. I don't know if it'll be on the recording. I think it was after the meeting. So the problem with that, Singularity does it. I think they have a weeklies, don't they? Alphas? Weekly alphas? Singularity doesn't have a support team. Linden Lab doesn't do that. And if they did, Linden Lab has a support system in which the only way you can really get a hold of them is through support tickets, and support tickets can be quietly ignored. What other viewers do nightlies or weeklies? I can assure you, whoever they are, they don't have a dedicated support team. They do not have a dedicated support team. We are the only viewer project in Second Life that provides live support in a group, unfiltered, ad lib. We don't know who's coming next. We don't know who's going to ask what question. And that puts us in a different kind of situation than any other viewer project in Second Life. Because while we can say, here's a nightly, it's completely unsupported, please don't come to our support team asking for help with it, because we can't support it. It's an alpha. We're not going to answer your questions. We can say that till we're blue in the face. We can have bars across the screen when they're running that viewer that says, do not come and ask us for questions or for help, because this is a nightly, it's unsupported, it's probably broken, and it would be probably broken, I can assure you, if it's a nightly. Don't come for help. Do you think that's going to stop people coming for help? I can assure you it won't.
It won't. Jalen, the problem with an automated uninstaller, it's not that simple.
Oh, can I get back to that? That's a good
Yep.
question.
Yep.
I'll get back to that. So one thing at a time. So in our situation, we can't really do nightlies, public nightlies. We actually do nightlies internally. And so today, and Serial will commit some code that she's been working on this big feature that she's working on. This is speaking hypothetically, but this does happen all the time. Not today. I think ANS is not working today. But a developer will commit half the work because it's not finished. But she wants to get it onto the repository so that other people don't write over it, for example. And it's not finished. And if you go and download that nightly, you're going to have something, you'll have a floater panel that has some really cool sounding feature, but it doesn't actually work. And if that's a public nightly, people are going to download it. They're going to say, oh, what's this really cool new feature? Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, I got to ask somebody why it doesn't work. Where am I going to go? Who should I ask? Oh, I know. Firestorm has this public support group that anybody can go in and ask. And they're going to come in and ask, and I can guarantee you support will say, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. Where is that? Where is that in the viewer? And they'll say it's under this menu. And support will go, well, I don't have that in my viewer. Where are you seeing that? I don't understand. And they'll end up spending 10, 15 minutes trying to figure out what the hell you're talking about before they realize you're on an alpha that is not supported. And you have all the good intentions. You don't mean to come in and cause headaches for support. You just have this question about this feature. You've got nobody to ask if you're on a nightly. Don't ask. You can't ask. But people will ask. And that's why we don't do nightlies. We just can't support them, and saying that we're not supporting them does not stop people en masse from coming in and asking questions. Nightlies for the beta group. So beta testing, and I've not forgotten, Dragon, this is the question you had. I'll get back to it. Nightlies in the beta. Beta is not a unmoderated group. Our QA is run strictly, and rightly so, and they do a fantastic job, because more or less we want beta testers to be testing specific things. If we just give you builds, and I know we have some testers in the audience here, if we just give you builds and we don't get you to test anything specific, then that work that is being worked on. So, for example, let's say, same example, we've got half finished code in the viewer, and we give the beta testers a nightly. The beta tester is going to go in, they're going to say, what's this? And they're going to ask in group, what's this? And probably QA won't have a clue. QA, I mean, Dakota, Kate, Fatashi, Willow, Whirly, whoever's in, well, Whirly will know. She knows everything, but they won't know the answer. And all the beta testers are going to come in. 5 minutes later, another one's going to come in. 5 minutes later, another one's going to come in, all asking the same question to which we have no answer to. Can you imagine how frustrating that can become? So it's kind of the same situation. Our model doesn't work that way. With the model system that we have, I'm not saying it's right. It's the right model or the best model. I think it is, as my opinion. It's just not really going to work for public nightlies or even weeklies. Somebody mentioned earlier, instead of saying every 2 months, what about doing releases based on the amount of changes that get done in the viewer? So, once we hit a certain threshold of new stuff, that should be how we determine whether we do a release or not. Actually, to be honest, that is kind of what we do. It just turns out to be every 4 months. It should be quicker. Yeah. And well, that's the other thing, is how do we measure new features? So, for example, let's use the SL share really cool feature as an example. There are some people in this audience who absolutely would feel that that is worth a release. And there are people in this audience who absolutely feel it is completely and utterly useless to them. SL Share, by the way, is the ability to link your SL avatar to Facebook. It was Linden Labs, one of their most recent big features. So how do we weigh that? How do we weigh what is worth a release and what isn't? It's not even that much of a question. We're pretty good. We understand what most people want and care about, and we can more or less weigh out, what's worth releasing. What we had a month ago was worth releasing. But we wanted to wait for HTTP because that is really good. And had we not waited for it, then we'd have a release without HTTP, and then HTTP would have been out, and everybody wants HTTP. And then something else, and then something else, and something else. Why does it take us so long to keep up with Linen Lab? I'll tell you why. In part, anyways, because Linen Lab works on these things in secret. When they start to get a little bit closer, we might find out that they're working on it, and we might find out a little bit about it. But we don't see the code. We don't know what's in the code. We don't know how much code there's going to be. Linen Lab only makes the code available to us right before they put it out to release candidate mode, more or less. Sometimes more sooner, sometimes later. But we don't actually get to see that code until Linen Lab is like just about ready to release it to the wild. That doesn't give us a whole lot of time to get it into our viewer and test it and work out some of the bugs. And no offense to Linen Lab, but Linen Lab has a different level of, how should I put this? Linen Lab has a different, Linen Lab has a different threshold on what they think is ready for release versus what we think is ready for release. And, that's nothing against Linen Lab. Linen Lab has fewer users than we do. Linen Lab doesn't have, the kind of live support that we have. So they can release with big bugs, and it won't impact them as much as it will when we release with big bugs. We release with a little bug that affects 1% of the user base, and that's 10,000 people, more than 10,000 people, 1%. That's, we have to think about that. And so I'm really strict about what passes QA. And even then, I can assure you, Dakota and Kate are more strict on what passes QA. I have to supersede them sometimes and say, okay, that's an annoying bug, but, we're going to have to release with it. And so, again, I have to find the comfortable middle ground that nobody's happy with, but they're a little bit more happy than if I went one extreme or the other. And so, QA is really important. We can't just push out stuff untested like Linen Lab does. No, I'm sorry. Linen Lab does have QA, but they do a release every week. And they do have bugs. So do we. So does everybody. I don't want to sound like I'm being unfair. Is it every other week now?
Jess's job is really simple. She just tries to keep us all unhappy.
Yeah.
And we love her for it.
So, so that's where that is. Are we ready to move on from that? And then I can get back to the question of having the uninstaller deal with clean installs. How many people think a release every 2 to 3 months is acceptable? Including our team here, developers, support.
There's been a suggestion made that we could do a full release every 2 to 3 months and throw out a bug fix in between.
Yeah, minor bug fixes.
No new features, just bug fixes on the in-between. The problem, that's more work for the devs, though. Because
it looks like most people are okay with every 3 months.
Yeah. Well, if there was bug fixes plus the regular stuff going on, they'd have to have 2 separate repos, one for the bug fixes. Yeah, that's exactly my point, Ants. It's a great suggestion, but do we have the manpower to do it?
Well, the interest. Again, our devs aren't being paid.
Interest.
I can't tell them do this or you're not getting your paycheck. I have to entice the developers with catnip or small mammals if they're werewolves, depending on what creature they happen to be. I have to use. You have to herd cats, and that's pretty difficult too. So, the point I'm trying to get to is that it's every 4 months is definitely too long. Everybody here, I think, can agree that every 4 months is too long. Certainly I do. And we are aiming for every 2 months. And if we can aim for 2 months, we'll probably manage to get a release out every 3 months. That gives devs, hang on, Tanya, I'll turn on scripts again. Okay, try sitting down again. So that gives our devs 2 months and, maybe a month and a half, and it gives QA about a month. If we did every 3 months, that's devs get 2 months and QA gets 1. I think that's fair. And support deals with a month and a half of hell, another month of recovery, and then preparing for the next release. I think 3 months is a suitable difference. So I'm going to tell you on the record, I try not to make, statements that I regret. We are going to try to do a release every 3 months. That is going to be our target goal. We may have little minor releases in between, even. So, for example, we're working a little bit with Linen Lab on, you guys remember group ban feature Linen Lab's working on? The ability to moderate who can enter a open enrollment group. So you can get rid of spammers and stuff permanently without closing your group. So this is a really big feature. And it's one of those features that is kind of going to need everybody to adopt it at the same time, thereabouts. Linen Lab is working on trying to get that done as soon as possible and released. And when they do, our plan is, providing it suits our standards, our quality standards, and works the way we feel that it should work, which is just to say that it's useful and not circumventable. We'll issue an update, which will probably be 4.6.2, that will have 4.6.1 plus group ban code. That's it. Maybe a couple little blocker fixes that came up in the 4.6.1 release. PB, we make schedules, but the schedules are dictated more or less by if it's ready, anyways. So, okay, will that require clean install? Let's get to the clean installs. Wait, V5.
We haven't got there yet, Eric.
Yeah, we're not at V5 yet. We more or less make those numbers up out of the air. By the way, we don't, the version numbers we choose. Aside from the last 5 digits, whether it's 461 or 462, we more or less just make those up based on what we think it should be, which is based on how much work has gone into it. So let's talk about, somebody had a question about why can't the installer do clean installs. I'll tell you why. And we talked about this, when did we talk about this? We just talked about this somewhere. It was after a class, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So here's the problem with that. We don't know where you installed the viewer. We know where the default location is. We know where the installer sets the default, which is in your program files, Firestorm. Lots of people, how many people here install to a different directory than what's default when you install? That's a lot of I do's, and include my I do in there as well. So if we told the uninstaller to go in and uninstall from the default location, it's not going to find it, is it? And there's more than that to it. So you're talking about the viewer puts a lot of files in the app data folder, on Windows anyways. I can't speak for Mac or Linux. We don't know what's there. Let me give you an example. We've had users set their default cache location, and I used this example the other night, to C drive, or their desktop. And I feel sorry for them because if they set it to their desktop, for example, and they launch the viewer, they're going to have a gazillion files on their desktop. And then they're going to say, oh my gosh, that's a mess. I'm just going to go in and hit clear cache in the viewer. And what that does is that deletes everything. And it doesn't care if the file is already in use. It doesn't care. The viewer is very aggressive when it comes to clearing cache. It deletes everything, unequivocally gone. And people have set their cache location to their C drive. Goodbye, C drive. See you later.
That
Sayonara.
has happened.
It has happened, yes. So, I don't know what files you might have put in your app data folder, aside from what the viewer puts there. I don't know. You might have your porn there. You might have your password file for your bank there. You might have all your childhood pictures or all the pictures and videos of your children growing up their whole life. And if the uninstaller goes in there and unequivocally deletes everything that's there, well, you're going to come to us, and you're going to be very, very pissed off. And I don't know, from a legal standpoint, if we're actually liable for having done that. Probably not, but I don't want to find out. So that's why we don't do that. It's a risk. And we're all about protecting our users and trying not to do things that would harm your computer. And that's just something that when you multiply the number of users we have, there is a high likelihood that it's going to happen to at least somebody or lots of people. And, that's why we don't do that. So it's safer for us to make you jump through hoops and have to deal with all the BS of manually going in and deleting stuff. And that way, if you delete something, it's your fault. It's not ours. You deleted it. You went in there and you right-clicked and you hit delete. Even if we told you to, you did it. But no, seriously, it's just that it's safer.
The other part of this is we're all about giving you options, folks. We're here to improve your experience. We're not here to run your life. And one good thing about having to do a clean install manually is hopefully people are going to learn a little bit about their computers. And the more you know about your computer, the better it's going to run. The same as the more you know about the viewer, the better it's going to run.
Dragonus, you can install your, make a cache folder anywhere you want. Definitely put it in its own folder. Don't just put it into a root of somewhere, because when you clear cache, I can guarantee you it's going to delete everything. It's really aggressive.
Yeah, that's in the category of you can do this, you will not like the results.
Yeah. So, I absolutely hate that we have to recommend that you do a clean install. I hate it. I hate it. It is unprofessional. Among other things, it's just unprofessional. And we've taken a lot of efforts to try to figure out why. Not everybody needs to do it, by the way, and support will hate me for saying this, but, I rarely ever do a clean install and I've never had a problem. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Some people have the problem. Okay, I did once. I had to do it once. Okay, Ed's going to point out that I did have to do it once. I think most people don't need to, but I'll tell you what, do this. If you don't do a clean install and you log in and the viewer is slow, or it's not launching, or it's acting weird, or there's anything unusual, don't come to support until you've gone in and done a clean reinstall properly. And then if the problem is still there, then come to support.
Just as an aside, most of you are in the support group. How often do you see people come in, say they've got a problem, we tell them to go do a clean install, they come back and say, thanks, that fixed it?
Sweet cheeks, no, just the one time.
Well, on the each account question, part of the clean install is going to be clearing clearing out settings, which some are global and some are per account. So you would need to, but if you're doing a proper clean install, you're doing it manually, and so you're going to have that folder open. Yeah, and as Starlight says, you will need separate backups for each avatar, and you'll need to restore the per account settings at the very least individually, one by one. So your cache clear and your global settings clear will be one time, and then the per account settings are one by one.
Janice, I'll let support answer that. There was a time long ago when I ran the support team, back on Emerald, and I was actually good at support. That was a long time ago, and I'm not good at it anymore.
Under local has the chat logs, or is it roaming that has the chat logs? I can never remember. The only thing you really should keep is your chat logs. Other than that, get rid of the Firestorm folders. Both of them in app data. Jalen, a backup for each account will do something. You have to back up on each account. You also have to restore on each account for the per account settings. Your global settings are the same for each account because they're global. It's the backup ones. It's the per account ones that you have to back up for each account and then restore for each account.
Ed?
Yeah.
Can you use the same backup settings for each account? Or do you have to use separate ones for each account?
No, you use the same location. When you do the backup, you log in on your suite account and you do your backup. You log in on your next account, you back up again. The global settings are the same. All you're saving when you do it the second time is backing up the per account.
PB has a really good question there that should not go unanswered.
Okay, PB, generally speaking, you can use them. Okay, generally speaking. Every so often, we run into somebody that's a little on the strange side, much like I am with my XP machine that's rock solid, that has problems. My recommendation is this. Use your backups on a new major release. Use the backups, restore them, and if you have a problem, then go back to a blank slate and start all your settings.
Basically, it boils down to, and this is my opinion, it boils down to, and support may not agree with me, I think it boils down to just don't come to support unless you've tried fixing your weird issue by doing a proper, and I mean proper, meaning most people think they did a clean install, but they didn't. I mean follow the steps precisely on the wiki page, and if you still have the problem, then come to support.
55? I'd say try it. A lot of things, folks. Okay, I'm going to babble for a minute, Jess. Sorry.
Go ahead. In fact, I've got to run a BRB for a minute, so it's all yours.
Okay, you've got 1 minute. Hurry. There's a lot of recommendations that we make as support. Okay, clean install. Your bandwidth. Things like that. Now, these don't apply to everybody. Okay, for example, the bandwidth thing. If you're on a high-speed line wired in, 1500 is the maximum we recommend. That doesn't mean that you can't set it higher. Okay, well, I personally know people that have it at 3,000 and don't have any problems. But if you come to one of our support team and you've got your bandwidth at 3,000 and you're having problems, you know what we're going to tell you. Drop your bandwidth to 1500 maximum, please. There's no one size fits all, folks. There really is no one size fits all. And because
there's
we're
no
not
one
psychic,
size fits all. There's no one size fits all because one size truly doesn't fit all. Those settings are there because somebody at one point or another found that it needed to be tweaked for some case or other. That doesn't mean you have to go through and tweak every setting. If you do that, you're going to really hose things up. But the settings are there because at some point they were found to be necessary. So, you know, if we tell you need to tweak a setting, that's because, in our experience, doing that has fixed other problems like yours, and so it's worth a try.
and I'm going to take it a step further, okay? Every machine's a little bit different. And I'll give you a perfect example. We have somebody on the team with 2 MacBook Pros. One of them needs VBO and HTTP on, the other one needs VBO and HTTP off. They bought them at the same time. They're both the same model. They both got the same operating system on them. But one needs HTTP on, the other one needs it off. Go figure. There is no one size fits all. The recommendations that the support team gives you are based on our experience. And I'm going to use bandwidth as an example. People with their bandwidth up set really high run into all sorts of interesting problems like TP failure sometimes, all sorts of strange things, excess packet loss. In some cases, they don't show packet loss, but are experiencing all sorts of issues that are related to packet loss from what we understand. Go figure.
There's a lot of things in the viewer that make 0 sense. No matter how good of a developer you are, they make no sense. I'll give you an example. With 461, there is a bug with mesh. I think it's only fitted mesh. I'm not sure. I wish Whirly were here. That causes the mesh to look stretched across the sim.
ALM. And yeah, it's 461.
Yeah. Now, so Nikki was trying to fix. We came across this crash. On no, what was it? Oh, pulling a blank now. What was our blocker? It was a crash. Anyways, Nikki was trying to fix that, and the AMD. That's right, AMD driver. We had this. The reason why we didn't get to release that on Sunday night was because we had enough people show up with this problem of the graphics driver has stopped responding but has recovered. So it wasn't the viewer crashing; it was the driver crashing. The graphics card was only AMD, which is ATI cards, and difficult to trace because the viewer wasn't crashing, so we were not getting any information out of the viewer for it. Oh, Willow, thank you, you're awesome. Fire 13071. So somehow Nikki fixed that, and it was not happy about it because it makes no sense why it's fixed. It doesn't, from a code standpoint, what she did there doesn't make sense why it's fixed it somehow. But there's a lot of stuff in the viewer that makes no sense. There's a lot of functionality that just shouldn't work, and it does. Or should work, but doesn't.
Change your group tag.
Yeah, changing your group tag is another example. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that, logic doesn't necessarily apply in Second Life. Gee, that's a surprise.
Well, okay, but you got to remember that Second Life is a system with an incredibly large number of moving parts. And lots of people have had their fingers in it, and lots of people have had their fingers in the graphics drivers, and lots of people have had their fingers in the operating systems, plural. There are several involved, even if you're only running one, and on and on and on. There's an immense number of opportunities for people to screw things up, and invariably that happens. There's nothing that says that it has to make sense looking at it externally. That kind of thing doesn't make sense until you get to where you actually find out what the proximate cause of the bug is. And then and only then will it make sense. Well, except that the systems we deal with are complex enough and we have access to small enough parts of them that there are lots of things that will never make sense because we'll never see the proximate cause of the problem.
So I think we're reaching we're 2 hours in now. We've covered all of our scheduled topics. We've answered a lot of questions.
No, we haven't.
Right. Okay, Ed, you have the floor.
I do this at every one of our Q&As, folks, but I'm going to do it again and again and again. We have classes. We have free classes that run pretty much every day, multiple classes on some days. Please come out to the classes. Send your friends, send your enemies. The more people that come out to these classes, and any of you that have been out know that you wind up having fewer problems because you understand what's going on. Please take advantage of the classes. And I'll shut up now.
Contact sets. How many of you use contact sets? How many of you noticed contact sets is completely different now? Ed, do we have a class that reflects the new contact sets?
We do. The class notes are in the classroom, and Jody will be teaching at 3 p.m. SLT in our classroom here. She will be teaching the first new contact sets class.
Isn't that a coincidence? So when we come out with new changes and fixes and various things, the classes magically adjust to cover those. So if you've been to a contact sets class, you know, with the old contact sets class, it's going to be a different contact sets class now that we have new contact sets.
Janice, I think it was Janice that asked what contact sets were. Contact
come
sets
to the class.
allow you. I'll give her the brief one. Contact sets allow you to organize your SL contacts into sets. So you can have, these are my friends, these are my business contacts, these are people I don't want to talk to. Oh, wait, I didn't say that, did I? And you can color code them. You can get, do you have a large friends list, Janice? Mine's huge. Okay, I can get selective online, offline notifications for just certain sets rather than all or nothing. So for somebody with a large contact set or large friends list in SL, contact sets are a boon. Come out and check out the class. Selenia, yeah, I'm up over 960.
I'm higher than that. I got you beat. And I don't know a fraction of the people in my friend list. Sly had a question before I forget. What about talking about new things coming in future releases? I'll tell you, we're still, you know, if we're gonna succeed in a release every 3 months in the next, say, year, We're going to need to put most of our focus on merging in the labyrinth of new stuff that Linen Lab is pushing out, and it's all going to start coming out at the same time, most likely. And a lot of it is unstable still, even according to Linen Lab. So probably our focus for this next, I'm going to guess 6 months, 8 months, is just going to be trying to keep up with Linen Lab's things. So we're talking the second part of the Sunshine work, which is the avatar appearance work. We're talking interest list stuff, which is huge. We're talking group bands, which is epically awesome as a feature. So basically, don't count on a lot of our own new features, unfortunately. I'm sure we'll have some, but I don't know that we have any on the planning board that we're going to be able to get to.
Yeah, labyrinth, that is not the term I would use.
There's a better...
There are lots of terms that I could use. The only printable one I can think of off the top of my head is dog's breakfast.
It's a mess. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really tough.
When will the voice stuttering be fixed?
Okay, good question. We have... So Linen Lab has a new version of Vivox that they are currently testing. Tank wanted us to release it with this version, and he tried very hard, and we had an argument, and I won. And the reason I won is because it's just not tested. And, well, yeah, I got really angry.
That's just a minor detail. Just
anyway,
Labs hasn't tested it doesn't mean.
Again, though, I part of my job is finding a happy medium, and I will be willing to provide the download to those new voice files on our wiki page, which we haven't done yet. We will once Tank sends me those files, which he still hasn't done, with instructions. Can you just send it to me, because I'm lazy that way, and I'm actually pretty busy. I know it's hard to believe, but anyway, we're going to offer it on a wiki page. You can download it, and it'll have instructions. Pretty simple. Just extract it to your installation, and your viewer will use the new voice files. And hopefully we can get that within the next couple days. Yeah, but we can't actually do anything with voice. It's closed source.
As for Linux, Mona, no idea.
Oh, how did the download server... Good question. I am, you may have noticed, pretty happy today. And it's not just because I think 4.6.1 relatively has been a very good release, aside from some, a very loud minority. It's been a really solid release. Really proud of the team. My biggest concern about this release was the download server. And take care, Dragonus. And it performed flawlessly. Absolutely beautifully. It was under some pretty heavy load for a while. 600 megabits per second, or megabytes per second. Something like that. It was taxed for a while, but it handled it just fine. And considering it's not actually a download server, it's just an old kind of computer server. It's not designed for... It isn't actually built specifically to, send files. And I didn't actually get an email from Hetzner, who we're paying it from, saying, WTF, what are you doing to our server? Which I kind of expected as well. Everything went flawlessly, and the download server is there to stay. Well worth the money. Somebody else had a question earlier. I wanted to get back to it. Where is it? I'm sure somebody answered it in text. If your question wasn't answered, ask it again. Yeah, we're using Hetzner. Hetzner is really good. They're the best price you're going to find. They have amazing support, too.
Yeah, good price, solid support, solid equipment, good solid infrastructure. Jess, I can't think of a single problem we've had that we can blame on Hetzner instead of our own phone.
Aside from when we got DDoSed for accidentally inadvertently blocking a griefer viewer that was using our channel, we've had 100% uptime.
So we can blame Jalen and 55 for screwing up our stats just by downloading twice.
Oh, in case you guys are wondering, let me tell you. Where did it go?
Luann, just throw your question out there. Not a problem. Just throw it out there.
Sim crossings. Sim crossing are still very much in the category of here there be dragons. To borrow a metaphor from the sea folks, this is one of those cases where anything and everything can happen, including having monkeys fly out of your nose. There's only so much we can do from the viewer, and it ain't a lot. We're very heavily dependent on what the server does there.
We are at 102,504 downloads right now.
Stephanie, clear cache, leave it alone? Leave it alone.
Holy
Unless you
crap.
have a problem with textures or inventory.
So yeah, that's a lot of downloads.
And
I think that's
pack for total or the most downloaded version.
Yeah, it was. I think yesterday we looked at it, was just over 50% of the downloads out of all the different downloads. We've got 8 of them. Is Windows 64-bit. Windows 32-bit comes in a close second. I think was it 20%?
20%? 2 to 1. It's basically
and Mac is about 9%. Linux is about 2 or 3% or something. I'm sorry, guys. There's just not a lot of Mac people out there. And if there were more of you, Linda, I would probably put more effort in fixing Cocoa bugs.
But my roommate is very happy with the Linux version. He says he's run 2 instances on his Linux box of the 64-bit Linux version for over 12 hours with 0 hiccups.
Well, we've had some complaints about the Linux 64-bit. YouTube doesn't work on it. Hey, guys, guess what? It's beta.
It's YouTube.
And it's going to have problems. And in fact, yeah, it's YouTube. But the blog comment specifically said Singularity does handle it. Well, use Singularity.
Did just tell somebody to use a different viewer?
Yeah, you know what? I have nothing negative I can say about Singularity. They've done an amazing job. I didn't think they go this far and get this far, and they have, and they're still going strong. Good for them.
Yep, I'm with Jess, and quite frankly, I have a blog post that I put out quite a while back. Is Firestorm the best viewer for you? And sorry, I'm very blunt about it. The best viewer for you is the one that's best for you. Simple as that. Clearing your cache is part of a clean install, yes, Molly. It's one of the few times.
Speech to text, maybe.
Yeah, Dragon naturally speaking. Does that answer your question, Peter?
Yeah, he even has it set to filter out the A.
I do.
Letta, did you want to sit back down? Oh, you gotta go.
Okay, Letta. Take care.
Thank you for coming.
Take care.
Oh, Momo, yes, there is, absolutely.
Oh,
You know the stuff you learned today, just today in the Q&A here? If you see people asking questions in support group, and you've already seen that question before because you know it's repetitive, right? The same questions get asked over and over. If you know the answer, feel free to answer. As long as you know it's the right answer, like you've seen support answer it the same way, repeat the answer. If you see those questions come up in other groups that have nothing to do with Firestorm, because I know, Firestorm becomes, at release time, becomes topic in most of the groups in Second Life, that's the best way to help. A lot of people ask, can I donate? Can I give you guys money? No, if you want to help us out, help other people out. That's because that's what we do. That's our goal, is to help you. Help others, because that reduces the load on support. As long as you're offering the correct answers. If you're not sure, don't answer, please, because then you're actually doing the opposite.
I have an addition to what Jess just said.
Yeah.
What Jess said is great. Okay, point people to the wiki, help them out if you can. However, here's one thing that I would request of all of our users. If you see drama starting in the group, your viewer sucks, yada 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 yada, it's a piece of crap, yada yada yada. Don't all jump on the person. A single response would be fine, and then leave it alone. Just ignore them, because all you're doing is adding to the chat lag, adding to the drama in the group, and making it harder to help people. So, exactly, don't feed trolls.
And not everybody
They're just
intends to be a
complainers.
troll. Like, if you think of, and we've all been in that spot where we're pissed off, bloody well pissed off about something. And it doesn't mean you're a troll, but you're going to come in the group and you're pissed off, you're going to voice your opinion. You're very susceptible then to be argumentative with anything somebody responds to you with. And so, if you see somebody who's really pissed off, quite often sometimes the best thing to do is say nothing at all. Because anything you say is just going to become...
And we will do this. In fact, my first interaction with the Emerald support team was exactly like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and Stephanie, regarding increasing groups, you were around when they went from 25 to 42? Did you notice a great increase in chat lag in groups? And you want more?
Let me just touch on that, about the complexities of adding one additional group. So we've got 42 as our limit now. And those of you who don't know why Linda Lab chose 42, the number 42, are too young or haven't seen The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Anyway.
Actually, it was going to be 40.
Yeah.
But, Oscar was able to, at the last minute, up it to 42.
And that's because 42 is the answer to everything. So, anyway, let me explain the complexities.
All 7 books of the trilogy.
I'll explain the complexities of adding, say, going from 40 to 42. Every parcel that you walk across, every region that you cross, there is usually a group associated to that parcel or that region. And what the server then has to do is it has to look through all the groups you belong to determine if you are in one of those groups that belongs to that parcel. It has to then, if you are belonging to a group in that parcel, it has to then scan through all the roles in that group to find out if you're a member of a role that has some kind of capability on that parcel. So if you imagine when you're flying through a region or driving or whatever and you're passing parcels, so the result is exponential. It's exponential on top of the exponential of how much additional load one extra group puts on the servers. So the fact that we went from 25 to 42 was huge. And the reason Lindenlab was able to do that was because they had just, was it M. Linden? M. Linden had invested a significant amount of money in servers, backbone servers. So those servers were able to absorb most of that load, but it still was some load. It was quite remarkable that it wasn't as negatively impacting as it was. It went a lot better than I expected it would. But yeah, it's not just a matter of adding a group. It actually adding one group adds tons and tons and tons more load on the server when you take into account how many people are crossing parcels at any given time.
What about pics on your profile?
What do you mean?
Adding more than 10?
Oh, right. Well, I think that's a storage thing. I can't imagine it being, that certainly wouldn't be an exponential thing because, you have to open the profile to look at them. So I couldn't explain why Lindenlab, wouldn't do that. Probably because there's just not enough demand for it, maybe. We couldn't do it.
I've seen petitions going around to have more groups and more pics put in on the
Well, I'll tell you
server,
something about
on the
petitions in
viewers.
Second Life. Generally speaking, they don't work. They don't do anything. And I don't know, what to give you a suggestion on what does work to get Lindenlab's attention. File JIRAs.
I can
Hey,
come up with one
hey,
way
Mike.
you might do it, and that is if you can convince Linden Lab that giving you more picks would increase their bottom line,
Yeah.
you'd have a decent chance of doing it.
See, you guys got to understand something. We can, if we could give you more picks, we'll do it because it's no skin off our backs. We work for free. And we do stuff because we feel like doing it. For Linden Lab to give you more picks means investing $20,000 in pay wages for the developers to do it. Actually, it would be more than that for even such a small thing. It costs more than that. And server costs, everything else, yeah. So you got to remember, Linden Lab is, in order for us to have Second Life, Linden Lab has to be profitable. And when it comes to deciding, what features to work on and what features not to work on, they've got to look at what's going to give them the best bang for their buck. Not that there's any logic behind efforts to tie Facebook in with Second Life, but anyway, I don't know how they prioritize these things.
Actually, the Facebook thing's really
Well, there's
simple.
advertising, I guess.
It's exposure for them on Facebook, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Free exposure in the long term. They had to pay, had to put the code in and get it all set up. But once that's done, it carries itself, right?
I don't like Facebook. I use Facebook, and even we have an official Facebook page, which I logged into maybe 3 months ago once. I use Facebook because I have to, because I run a business in real life, and that's you gotta keep with the times, I guess. Doesn't mean I have to like it. But there are people who do like Facebook. There are people who like SL Share, and I have nothing against you for that.
Yep, it's one of those things, folks. How many types of different people do you find in Second Life? I mean, do you like Gregorian chants, folks, for music? Some of you do, some of you don't. That's the joy here. We all get to do what we want to do.
Starlight, it's funny you say that. I'll tell you what I use Facebook, what I like about Facebook, is that I can spy on my stupid kids who post everything that goes on in their life on Facebook. And somehow think that I'm not going to see it. I think that's hilarious.
I do want to mention one thing that I've seen in our blog, comments and such regarding Facebook. There's been some comments stating that Facebook doesn't allow for avatars on their site. That used to be true. It used to be that they had a policy that you had to be a real person behind the account, but there was enough user backlash for that they've since recanted that. So you
Yeah, because
can
I use my avatar name.
right. So you can use an account, Facebook account, for just your avatar that doesn't have any of your real life information on it.
Yeah, because when I had the venue, I promoted the venue on Facebook a lot, and I report on different musicians and stuff like that.
No, Molly, you don't need to do that anymore.
Dan, come out to our classes. You'll make friends.
Yeah,
with our classes.
we'll keep you company.
But
Yeah,
careful,
join
if you do that
yeah.
too much, if you do that too much, the support team will suck you in, and then there will be no hope.
So for the sake of the recording length and Pantera's hard drive space, are we pretty close to the end? Anybody have any more really important questions that need to be or should be recorded?
The only thing that I'd like to say is that there is space down on the center of the region here where you can get help or go down and help people. It's a very pretty region down there, folks, for any of you that haven't seen it. Check it out.
Help with Firestorm, that is. The other kinds of help that people around here, certainly people on the team, need, sorry, we can't help you with that.
Oh, Wolf, happy birthday. It's Wolf Looney's birthday, folks, by the way.
Happy birthday, Wolf.
Actually, that was yesterday. Was that midnight yesterday? I missed it. I saw the notification in Skype. Happy birthday. And with that, I think we should call an end to at least the official side of this. And after we stop recording, feel free to keep asking questions. Most of us will hang around, and we can all hop on voice and talk casually and all that fun stuff. In the meantime, I want to thank all of you for coming, and we will have another QA in 1 month's time, Q&A in 1 month's time, and that will be at what time? At
4 p.m.
4?
SL.
4 p.m. Because we alternate depending on where you live. And so thanks for coming, guys, and hope we got all your questions asked. And like I say, if we didn't, feel free to ask them again. And thank you, Pantera.
And I'll be right back again. I'm sneaking away for a minute.
I need to go make breakfast. I'll be back in a bit.
And you guys are going to leave me alone up here. What the hell?
Duh.
Yeah, there is grilled cheese calling my name.
Grilled cheese. On second thought, we're not going to be sticking around.
How about a grilled cheese with a slice of back bacon on it?
That would be good.
Rye bread.
Bacon egg?
Okay, shut up.
Or grilled cheese with jam on it.
Shut up. What? Jam? Ew.
It's just
I've
weird.
never had that.
You're weird.
Ugh.